Welcome to another episode of The Good Listening To Show, your life and times with me, Chris Grimes. The storytelling show that features The Clearing, where all good questions come to get asked and all good stories come to be told. And where all my guests have two things in common. They're all creative individuals and all with an interesting story to tell. There are some lovely storytelling metaphors. A clearing, a tree, a juicy storytelling exercise called 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, some alchemy, some gold, a cheeky bit of Shakespeare, and a cake. So it's all to play for. So yes, welcome to The Good Listening To Show, your life and times with me, Chris Grimes. Are you sitting comfortably? Then we shall begin. Look at that. I count to 4 as usual in my head, which saves me editing later. Ladies and gentlemen, quite literally min, would you please welcome the glorious Lucy Briers, award-winning, thrice-nominated, once won, award-winning actress for your performance in Rosmersholm, I think you'll find.
Yes, very good. Most people don't attempt it. Well done.
Here all week. And it was the Clarence Derwent Award.
It was.
Yes.
Which I'd never heard of until I won it, but quite a pedigree. And I'm very, very happy to say that people like Gene Hackman and Christopher Walken have won that award. Yes, they have, in New York. Yeah, because it started on Broadway and then moved into the West End in the 1940s. So yes.
And by the way, thank you for that delicious word, pedigree, because obviously we can't talk to you without acknowledging the fact that you are from sort of theatrical, filmic, TV in the UK aristocracy, because you are the daughter of the wonderful, now sadly departed Richard Briers as well.
I am, indeed. And I will be talking about him in a minute.
And you've said some really, and please do mention the wonderful moniker he learnt for himself because of his love of wine later on.
I will.
Thank you so much. So you're extremely welcome. You're an English actress, most famous for obviously winning that award, and well done for the illustrious company of other pedigrees that also have won that same award.
Thank you very much.
What's the story behind Clarence Derwent? Is he someone who is...
No, Clarence Derwent was a British actor, and he moved over to New York in, I think, the 1920s, and he was very much sort of part of Equity, and he was a supporting actor, and he started the Clarence Derwent Award for the best supporting actor and actress on Broadway. And that's where it started. And then he moved back to the UK in the 1930s, 40s, and he brought the award with him. So yeah, it's very nice to win. You are basically named the best supporting actress, as I was, for 2019 in the West End. You can't say fairer than that, can you?
That is awesome. And the fact you didn't know anything about him, now you're a complete ambassador for it.
I am. Yeah, I looked him up. I like to know what I've won.
And it's such a joy. By the way, we have the Bristol Old Vic Theatre School in common. We weren't there at the same time, but I know we went there. We're both alumni.
We are. Yeah, we are. Yes, I'm a little bit older than you.
I don't think you are, actually.
Oh, okay.
I've Googled you, and you were born in... Well, do you mind if I age you?
No, I'm very open about things like that, because I think otherwise one colludes with the patriarchy.
I like
as a woman, if you're constantly going, I'm 32. No, I'm 55.
Yes, and I'm 60. I was born in 62 or 67. So...
Yes.
And let us not collude with the patriarchy. I love
No, let's not do that. No, or the obsession with youth. No. Age is a good thing.
You are extremely welcome to The Good Listening To Show. Stories of distinction and genius, which you're going to be giving us by the bucket load anyway. We've had some really lovely conversations, and I've really enjoyed researching you to get us to this point too. So it's going to be my complete joy to bring you into a clearing or serious, happy place of your choosing. Then there's going to be the usual construct, which makes everybody feel safe, warm and fuzzy, which is a clearing, a tree, a juicy bit of Shakespeare, a couple of random squirrels, and a cake. So it's all
lovely.
There's some storytelling apples, there's a golden baton, there's cake, and there's squirrels.
Oh,
and there's a gold bar as well. While I'm
I like the look of that. Lovely.
So because it's going into a theatre show shortly, it's also going to have all this comedy paraphernalia and a bell.
Always
go into any rabbit holes.
Which I'm sure I will. Good. Okay.
So welcome aboard. Where is a clearing for Lucy Briers? Where do you go to get clutter-free, inspirational? Where is your serious, happy place?
Manhattan. The island of Manhattan. But let's get very specific and say the Sheep Meadow in Central Park.
gorgeous. Tell us a bit more about
with no one else in it. If we for today. Manhattan, New York is what I call my soul city. I've been very lucky. I've worked there twice. The last time I worked there, I lived there for 5 months. So I feel I know it quite well. And it's just where I feel happy. I am certain if I lived there all the time, it wouldn't be that. Probably London would be my soul city, because I think living in a city like Manhattan is hard work. It's hard work. But the energy of that place makes me feel like anything is possible. And my stepdaughter said to me once when she was over visiting, when I was working there, she said, "You're always happier here, aren't you?" And I went, "Yeah, I am. There's something about it." And I've always been an Americanophile since I was a kid. So yeah, Central Park.
And when, as a kid, did you first get to go to America? Was that in working?
I didn't go to New York until 1996. Yes, I was in my late 20s, and I went out to visit my dad, and my mum was with him as well. He was doing a play on Broadway. And I remember stepping off the plane. I mean, I hadn't even got to Manhattan, stepping off the plane. And I just went, "Oh, I love this place," JFK Airport, and and there's that cab ride. I now kind of go by public transport because I know how to do that now. But the first time I got there, the cab ride, when you suddenly see Manhattan on the horizon. Yes. And for me, I've watched so many American movies in my life. I was obsessed by Starsky and Hutch and $6 Million Man and Kojak. I mean, I know they're not all set in New York, but I was obsessed by America as a kid. And so I felt like I'd kind of come home. It was a very, very strange feeling. And I've been like that ever since about it. Yeah.
And as a self-professed Americanophile, as you very deftly put, have you ever done that sort of Hollywood LA thing where you've gone to hang out in LA? Yeah,
not so keen.
Yes.
No, we have friends in LA. They've actually now moved to New York, which is great. But I did do the pilot season when I was about 42, which was deeply soul destroying. Although what I found very funny was I would turn up for meetings, and I actually had a casting director say this to me. I'm going to do a slightly dodgy American accent now. She went, "What I love about you is that you're 42, but your face still moves." I'm not joking. And I was like, "Okay." She said, "You've had no filler. You've had nothing." And I went, "No, it's amazing." And I was like, "Okay."
That was the travesty of Botox was light camera in action. So yeah absolutely.
So yeah, I realized that was probably the pinnacle moment where I realized this city is really not for me. But I do love San Francisco and I love San Diego, but LA is a tricky place, I think.
Yes.
It's a tricky place. It's got a weird environment, energy to it, because you've got a lot of people who are desperate.
I can confirm that your face is still moving beautifully.
Thank you. Yes, still no fillers, guys. Still no fillers. Occasionally tempted to lift the jowls, but still no fillers. I'm not going to do it, I promise you.
Wonderful. So you said very beautifully as well, you want to be on your own, and you called it the Sheep's Meadow, did you?
Sheep's Meadow, yeah. It's a kind of massive bit of clearing, like green grass in Central Park, the south end of Central Park. Yeah, I mean, if we're going to be, peaceful and groovy during this thing, then no, I don't want anyone disturbing it. It's a huge area. I'm being very selfish. I just want it to myself at this time. Yeah.
It's taking me down a rabbit hole of the sort of gangs of New York when it used to be a sheep meadow.
Yeah, that's absolutely, yes, yeah.
You wouldn't mind too much if someone like Daniel Day-Lewis turned up, obviously.
Well, yes, because he'd be far more interesting than me. So yeah, so Daniel, please carry on more.
You don't want to be upstage. We'll stop that.
No. Although he is, a BOVTS alumni. Yes.
I was very struck with. He is absolutely astonishing, but he can't possibly have learnt what he does at the Bristol Old Vic Theatre School.
No, it isn't that kind of school, is it? No, it isn't. No, but it gave me a huge amount of. I always describe the approach of that school as it was like being given a theatre school buffet that you could literally just pick. There was no methodology, and I really loved that about that school. Yes. And so I approach each job totally differently. I don't have a method that I apply. Yes. Oh, right, now I do this character work, and that I literally approach every job in a slightly different way. And that, I think, was the most valuable thing that I took away from Bristol.
Yes. And, when we have to start again, there's always that imposter syndrome in all actors. We think, oh, God, will my method, however formed or unformed it is, will it ever work again?
Yeah. Or will I ever work again? Yeah.
It is a lovely punchline. I love that. That wasn't a rabbit hole. I was just giving you a bell. I thought that was a good punchline.
UK Health Radio, the station that makes you feel good. UK Health Radio, the station that makes you feel good.
Thank you very much.
So, even though you want to be on your own, if I may, I'm going to now interrupt you with a tree. It's a bit waiting for God to arrive existentially with a tree in your clearing.
Yeah.
And I'm going to shake your tree to see which storytelling apples fall out. How do you like them apples? So this is your response now within the Sheep's Meadow, within Central Park in central New York, in Manhattan, where this is your response to 5 minutes to have thought about 4 things that have shaped you, 3 things that inspire you, 2 things that never fail to grab your attention. That's where the random squirrels will come in. And then a quirky or unusual fact about you, Lucy Briers, we couldn't possibly know until you tell us. So over to you to just interpret the shaking of your canopy as you see fit.
Okay, so because I'm quite a structured person, so I will go through exactly what you've asked me. So the 4 things that have shaped me, I mean, do I go into any detail? Shall I list them all and then go back to the top and...
how long you can do it how you want. I'd like you to go into a bit more detail.
Okay, great.
If you had an instinct to do it that way, that's really lovely.
No. So number 1 would be being the child of a famous person. Now, I really thought about this because it's not until I think this is true of anybody's childhood. It's not until you come out of your childhood that you understand how unique your childhood was in any way. You know, everybody's childhoods are unique. But I think it's very odd being the child of somebody well known. I mean, my father was at his height of fame when my sister and I were children. So you are walking down the street with your dad and he stopped every third person by every third person to say, "Oh, hello, Richard. You know, I loved The Good Life last night," or whatever it was, you know.
Yes.
And we would be stopped on holidays. We would be, you know, all of that. Now, my father was an extremely lovely person, and he gave time to each and every person who stopped him, because as he always said to my sister and I, if it wasn't for the people who love my work, I would not be working, which is absolutely right. But of course, as a kid, it's a bit annoying because you're like, I'm out for a walk with my dad. Why do I keep getting interrupted? And so I think how it shaped me was that I am actually, although I'm quite extrovert and I enjoy a social and I love a chat, I'm actually quite a private person. Mm-hmm. That's what I've realized. I don't reveal a lot of myself to people unless they're in my kind of inner circle.
Yes.
So I think that shaped me a lot. And also you learnt, my sister and I have talked about this, you learnt how to present the brand.
Yes.
The Richard Briers family, Radio Times family brand, which is what we called it. And you compartmentalize that. And that's how you present yourself to the general world. And then, of course, there's your actual family life with all its ups and downs and it's, you know, all the things that everybody has. So, yeah, it taught me how to do a private and a public self.
And indeed, in the research that I really enjoyed doing into you made some beautiful comments about how you had to sort of, you know, navigate the differentiator between the man who was my dad rather than the man who was, as you say, the good brand Richard Briers.
Yeah.
And of course, in how everyone's narrative gets confused, I almost can imagine you walking down the street close to Surbiton because that's where the good life was. But of course, that's complete nonsense.
Yeah. It was London. It was West London. Yeah. Yes. That's where we were brought up. Yeah. But no, it wasn't Surbiton.
And you may talk more about this, but also the other thing I was really interested to ask you about was that the way you've handled the grief of it, your profound sense of both absence and presence. He's still there, obviously, but absence and presence. Yeah. And then you said particularly when you're working in theatre, which I find really interesting, almost like an angelic presence.
He totally is. He totally is.
Your dad on stage.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I think I'm very much like him in this respect, that I think he was happiest in theatre. And as a genre, so am I. That's my kind of place of great content in my work. And I always feel his presence it kind of towards the opening of a show. And, and occasionally, halfway through a long run, I'll kind of feel like he's just standing in the wings going, all right, love, come on, keep going, I do still, I don't know how other people experience this, but I feel his presence now very much comes and goes. Whereas when he first died, which is 10 years ago now, I felt it very, very strongly. But yeah, he comes and goes. He turns up, which is lovely. Yeah, it's really lovely.
And maybe you'll talk about this as well, but I was also really struck with you describing your dad cupboard. So you've got a cupboard you go to when you need a top up, if you like.
Yeah, how lucky am I that I have my dad on 50 different DVDs? I mean, how extremely lucky is that? So yeah, if I need to just see him move and talk, I will just go. It's usually an episode of Ever Decreasing Circles because he was so genius in that. And it's just lovely. It's just lovely to see him and just hear his voice. Yeah, how lucky. I just feel very privileged that I'm able to do that.
And just while I'm there, the other thing that I was really struck by was you reported that when he died, your mum and you received, and I gather your mum's no longer with us either. Is that right?
No, she died a year ago. Yeah,
And you received 750 letters almost immediately afterwards, telling stories about him that you had no idea about, but they were all attesting to his extraordinary generosity. Stuff like, sending a check to someone to get them through drama school, just wonderful stuff to attest what a gorgeous human being he was. Yeah. The brand was consistent.
Totally. And what, I'm so not that kind of person. I'm the kind of person who goes, yeah, I've just made a donation to, I can't help myself. I have to get a pat on the back for some sort of altruism. But my father was not like that. My father, as I say, he did many things for people that my mum was just not aware of, and just acts of kindness and time that he spent with people. And yeah, it was extraordinary. I think in the end, my mum got about 1,500 letters after my dad died within 2 weeks. It was extraordinary. I mean, it was kind of too much in terms of we just went, oh my God. And they're all still in box files actually, which is sort of ludicrous. But yeah, it was a testament to him. It was wonderful. It was wonderful. Yeah.
Wonderful. And how appropriate that you mentioned him as the first profound shapeage, if you like.
Yeah. Lovely. Yeah. He really is and was, he still is very much. A lot of my approach to my work is sort of founded on what he taught me and how he advised me. And what was lovely is as I became a professional actor and we would actually advise each other, he would sometimes send me scripts and go, what do you think? Should I do this or not?
Yes.
I am the reason he's in Cockneys versus Zombies.
Of course you are.
Because I read it and my mum was like, there's so much swearing. And I just, and my dad was like, there is a lot of swearing. And I went, yeah, but it's going to be cult. You've got to do this.
Wonderful.
So he did it. Yeah.
And is it your sister you talked about as well? Has she gone into acting as well?
My sister trained at LAMDA to be a stage manager and worked her way up to be a company manager in the West End. And then she had kids. And so she took time out to do that. And then when her kids left home, she brilliantly retrained to be a primary school teacher. She is about to retire. I don't blame her because my God, how hard they work. But yeah, she started out in theatre and then, but I think being a teacher is almost like being a performer.
Exactly.
Yeah.
My daughter's just recently trained as a primary school teacher, so that's very resonant. And I love the fact your sister gave it up to go and stage manage a family instead, which is
she did indeed. She did indeed. Yes.
So we're in the canopy of your tree, deliciously talking about the second apple now of shapeage.
University. So I went to a very, very privileged private school in London. And I think something ridiculous like 75 or 80% of my year went to Oxford or Cambridge. Okay, that's what you were supposed to do, really, from my school. And because I wanted to be an actor, I kind of didn't want to go to university at all. But my parents were like, you are going to university. So I was like, okay. And I think now they'd be different because, of course, now you can't get grants for more than you can't really get grants very much at all nowadays, but let's not get into that. But in my time, my young days, I was very lucky, as we all were, that we could get grants for quite a lot of further education. So I went to Lancaster University. And I was the second pupil from my school to have ever gone there. Lancaster was founded, I think it's 1965, but anyway, mid-60s. Very left-wing, very political. At the time I went, it was kind of known informally as the gay university of the UK. I did not know this. So I turned up as basically a Sloane Ranger with hair down to sort of here. I literally talked like this. I mean, I literally could barely open my mouth. I was incredibly posh. I mean, my father said to me once, he said, I've spent thousands of pounds on your education. I can't understand what you're saying. Because I was literally like, I don't know what you mean, Dad. God, you're so like ridiculous. So I turned up to this left-wing, highly politicized school. I think there were about 3 or 4% of the students came from private education. Everybody else, grammar, comprehensive. It was incredibly tough because I also came with, I have a famous parent.
Yes.
But it was the greatest thing that could have ever happened to me. It was extraordinary. I was broken down and I was rebuilt. And it was, let me say to you that by term 3, I'd shaved my hair off.
Whoa.
And dyed it orange.
And by the way, it was an eclectic subject. You went to theatre and sculpture, I'm gathering.
I did. I read theatre and sculpture because Lancaster is one. I don't know if it still does this. I hope it does. It bases its degrees on an American thing where you can kind of make units. You pick units from different subjects to create your degree. So I have a degree in independent studies. That's what my degree is called. And independent indeed it was, but it was an incredible transformative time for me. I became very politicized. I mean, I was already politicized. I stood for what was then the Ecology Party, now the Green Party, when I was 11 at my posh school's mock elections. So I was already like out there and kind of politically engaged, but Lancaster completely engaged me. And I've never brandished more placards in my life. I'm still a big old protest march person, and I have 3 friends from that period who are still really 3 of my closest friends, because one in particular basically got me through my first year. Because I wouldn't say I did not have a breakdown, but I think what happened was that everything I thought I was about was challenged.
So you had a recalibration in a way.
Totally.
A reawakening.
A total awakening of what life was actually about, and it wasn't about living in quite a gilded bubble in West London in my very privileged school with my famous parent. And so it changed my life, and I am forever grateful to it for doing that. And I don't think I'd have got into drama school if I hadn't had that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And indeed, the preparation for drama school, doing theatre and sculpture makes you great for tableaus.
Oh, so many tableaus.
Thanks very much.
That's perfect, Chris.
I'm very glad that joke worked. Thank you. Thank you very much.
So I am very grateful to that.
And you said it was the demographic of being renowned at the time as being the principal's gay university in the UK. Does that mean that the demographic, most of your friends were therefore gay as well? Or
no, it didn't. I mean, actually surprised quite a lot of us when we were there. We were like, oh, really? Okay. But yes, there was a very robust LGBT, you wouldn't have called it this now, you'd have said LGB. Would you? Yes, LGB movement then.
Yes.
Now, obviously, LGBTQ plus I plus I. Oh, I'm being so terrible now. I do know this. Sorry, guys. LGBTQI plus. There we go. That's it.
Yes.
No, there was a very robust movement there, and I became a part of that in terms of supporting my gay friends and actually having gay friends. I mean, nobody at my school had come out at that point when I left, after A levels. They have since, which is marvelous. But it was a huge education in every possible way, as university should be.
Yes.
As university should be. And I would occasionally go to Oxford or Cambridge to visit old school friends. And I would just walk about going, oh my God, this is like being in the Truman Show. I know the Truman Show hadn't come out yet, but it was kind of like, it was weird. It was just like being at school, but everybody was older.
And ironically, also, it's normally drama schools that have a reputation of breaking you down and rebuilding you, whereas you had a little bit of that, or a lot of that rather, very profoundly at Lancaster before you then went to the Bristol Old Vic Theatre School.
Yeah, totally.
Yes.
Yeah, it was great. And loads of advised work and loads of political work, and it was fantastic. Yes. Stop. I could talk about it all day.
Thank you so much. So now we're up to the third apple of Shapage.
Okay. So we get a little bit darker now. My divorce.
I love that.
Fun times, everyone. Buckle up. So I got married when I was 28. And I got divorced when I was 37. And I'd been with my ex-husband for 3 years before that. So it was a 12-year relationship in all. My divorce was deeply painful. I'm going to be very open about why it happened. He left me for one of my oldest friends. Fun times. That happens more than you think, everyone.
Yes.
So, and nobody talks about it because it's almost taboo. It was a very, very, very difficult time. And apart from literally exploding my life, because I had absolutely no idea any of this was going on, it'd been going on for about a year, was that, of course, what that does, if it's not just the person you've married, but it's also involving someone you've known since you were like 10, 11.
Gosh, yes.
You literally go, I'm a really bad judge of character. So you then start questioning everything about your life and who you've chosen as friends and who you've chosen as lovers. And I mean, it just imploded everything. It was a very, very, very difficult time. However,
and whilst we're going there, just can I ask, how did you find out? Was it honourably disclosed, or did you find out because of the subversion? And
it took a long time for him to disclose. He did that terrible thing, which if anyone ever says this to me, I will literally go, goodbye. He said that thing of like, I need some space.
Oh, yes.
I need some space. And I naively and foolishly for about 6-7 weeks was like, okay, well, all right, well then maybe we'll just live apart for a bit and blah, blah, blah. I was so sort of like trusting of just that is, I took it at face value. No, it was nonsense. And eventually I kind of got it out of him over the phone, and did some very bad voice work because I screamed. So I was so stressed. I screamed and I pulled a muscle in my neck.
Wow.
and then sort of walked around like this for about 2 days because as if life wasn't bad enough. But you know what? There we go. Terrible. And lots of people have been through this. But what came out of that divorce? I would say the first year was very hard. And I kind of hit a weekend where I just could see nothing but hopelessness. And I was extremely lucky that I had not only my amazing family, but I had some incredible friends who got me through this. I don't know how you get through something like that if you don't have a support structure, to be frank. And from that weekend where I literally just went, I don't think I can get through this, things started to, improve. And we sold the marital home. I put all my belongings into storage because I thought I can't even think about what I want to do next. And I went and rented a room in a friend's house in North London for 18 months. I was 36, 37. And it was like I was back being 22. And the most extraordinary thing happened that I just got lots of work because I didn't care. Wow. I was so brave because everything was so gone. The way I thought my life was going to go had disappeared. So I had no fear. So I'd walk into auditions and I think I came across as this sort of slightly interesting, kind of enigmatic person. And of course, that means people employ you because they go, oh God, they're really interesting, aren't they? And they haven't got that usual sort of whiff of desperation that we all usually have in auditions. Like, oh, please, I'm so available, So I got so much work and I had money coming in and I went and traveled and I was answerable to no one. Mm. And it was extraordinary. And what it taught me, how it shaped me was I found a strength and resilience in me that I didn't know existed and has basically made me a happier person ever since. I'm not going to say to my, ex-husband and the person involved that he was involved with, thanks, guys. Oh, that was so great. My life just became so much better because of you two. No, I'm not going to say that. It's how I reacted to it. It's how I handled it. And that has led me to a much more fulfilled life, I think. And I'm a much stronger person because I got through it.
And my assumption is that there wasn't the complexity of children involved in that to make it extra
No, we were about to do IVF.
Yeah. Oh, blimey. I'm well escaped, madam, if I may say
so.
Indeed.
And, you know, much as I am very sad I've never had a child of my own, I am a very happy and stepmother. And I have been for the last 16 years. And that's brought me a huge amount of joy. But, you know, I am really pleased, actually, that I didn't have to go through that. And I didn't have to put a little person through that, because that would have been horrendous. Yeah.
And in the extraordinary sort of cataclysmic catharsis, is there now a peace accord with ex-partner and older best friend? Or
I have no idea where my ex-husband, I kind of vaguely know what he is and what he does. He has kids, which I'm really happy about. Yeah. I don't, he kind of said, I'd love us to be friends. I'm like, I just can't see us sitting over a cappuccino catching up. I just can't see that at all.
I can't see myself not throwing it all over you.
Exactly. And you know, I'm very much a believer of like kind of move on and clean slate it, really. And as for my old friend, no, I have no interest in that. I think, no interest at all. And
rest assured, I wasn't trying to build that bridge for you.
Exactly. No, I hope she's fine, but no interest at all. I have my friends who I love, and I don't spend enough time with them. So why would I waste time?
By the way, as you very wisely and sagely said, it happens far more than we think. And isn't it interesting how when something at the time feels absolutely catastrophic, ends up actually being one of the best things that could have ever happened for complicated, dark reasons. But actually, it's not how we're knocked over in life. It's how we get up again and how we keep going.
Exactly. And kind of university and divorce, I'm realizing, and the last thing I'm going to talk about, they're all massive challenges. I don't think life shapes you when you're just having a great time. You know, it doesn't. It shapes you when, you know, the chips are on the floor and you just kind of go, oh my God, my life is just ruined, or this is very difficult, or whatever it is. And it's exactly what you say. It's how you react and the choices you make from that's what shapes you, I think. Yeah
And that reminds me also of that lovely sage-like comment, which is easy to say but it's more complicated. But the difference in life between what you get and what you want is what you do. So it's the action towards. It's always what action you take, you know, when the chips are down, will make a difference. And the movement, so you moved away, you got the new flat. So it's all very commendable and very, I'm sure, resonant for anyone listening who's been through something similar. Thank you for having the courage.
There is light. If anyone's going through it right now, there's definitely light at the end of the tunnel. Just keep going.
You described the weekend of hitting rock bottom as well, from which it then started to get back up again.
Yeah.
Rich, wonderful stuff. Thank you, Lucy.
So the final one, we've got time, haven't we? The final one, and this is again quite dark, is my mother's Alzheimer's. I will be very brief about this. My mother passed away just over a year ago. She'd had Alzheimer's for, we think, about 9 years. It was only diagnosed about 7 years ago. And because I lived close to her, and my sister's job is full time and she lives out of London, I happily stepped forward as the person who would sort of coordinate care, help her run her house, etc. Anyone who's had any experience of a relative or a spouse who has had dementia or has dementia, it is the worst of illnesses for many reasons. There is no cure. There is no prescriptive treatment. So it's not like having cancer and somebody goes, okay, so now we're going to go and we're going to do this treatment and then that might work. And the other thing is that many friends disappear because they're frightened. So again, my mother actually said this, you know, and by this point she had Alzheimer's. About 2 weeks after the diagnosis, she said, I wish I had cancer.
Wow.
Actually said that.
Yes.
Yeah. Because everybody not everybody, she had some amazing friends who stayed put right till the end, but a lot of people disappeared. And also the wonderful National Health Service, which is just about still standing, they don't have the funds, they don't have the capabilities to help you after diagnosis, so you are truly left on your own.
And reading between the lines as well, as we know, it's the great detetherer, because people are detethered from their own sense of being.
Absolutely.
And it detethers friends. It just untethers everything.
That's a brilliant way of putting it. It really does. So my journey with my mum was one of, I'm a very impatient person, and I learned patience because I had to. And about for the first year after a diagnosis, I was impatient with her because also I hadn't quite accepted it, that my amazing, intellectually robust and brilliant mother, who I was very close to, was going to disappear, was going to sort of slightly flake away in front of me. And so she used to do these things. And I learned how to enter her reality. I learned how to accept her illness. I learned to be patient, all these things, which, you know, as I say, I'm a really impatient person, which was incredible. But there were things like very early on, she would do this thing. We'd go for a walk, and she loved dogs as I love dogs. And she would bark. If she saw a dog, she'd go, woo! And at first I just found it so embarrassing and like, oh my God, my mother is barking because there's a Labrador coming towards us. And after a while, I just barked with her. You know, I was just like, okay, this is how my mother's reacting to this dog, and we're just going to bark together, and that's going to be great. And I do think there needs to be more awareness generally.
And by the way, there's a lovely comedy improvisational strategy, which is, if in doubt, join in. So the fact your mum's barking and she's barking, so let's get barking.
Let's get barking. And very briefly, another example of that would be that this is quite late on in her illness. We were all sitting around the kitchen table. There was me, there was two of my mum's carers, because by the end she needed two carers at home. And she suddenly was on the tube line. She was on the Piccadilly line. She suddenly was like, oh, the doors have opened. And by this point, I was so into improv by this point with my mother. I was just like, okay, we're diving in. I say, what doors, darling? And she went, oh, Gloucester Road. We're at Gloucester Road. So I went, okay, we're on the Piccadilly line. So we went into town. We went into town and we got off at Green Park because my mother decided we were going to the Royal Academy. And we went, and then I took her into the sitting room and we looked at the paint pictures on her sitting room wall as if we're in a gallery. And then we got back on the tube around the kitchen table and came home. It was absolutely marvelous.
Yes.
So it taught me a lot. It was exhausting and horrendous and all those other things, but it taught me a lot. And
by the way, that's just resonated. So, you know, at the beginning I said about your grief, about absence and presence working in tandem, how the fact your mum is actually becoming absent, but you stayed monumentally present with what her presence needed to be.
Yeah, that's true. And in a weird way, there were moments where I felt I was closer to my mother than I'd ever been, because the illness kind of whittled her down to her essences, you know, and that was an experience.
And that, by the way, resonates beautifully with what comes at the end, which is the 7 Ages of Man resonance, and when we talk about legacy. So brilliant.
Yeah. UK Health Radio, the station that makes you feel good. UK Health Radio, the station that makes you feel good.
That's wonderful apple shapage. Forgive me just getting a slight lick on with the construct. So now we're on to 3 things that inspire you, please, Lucy.
Okay, I'm going to be really quick with this. Okay, sure. The first thing that inspires me is great acting. I love watching great acting. I've just finished Succession, which is a work of art, and I love to watch, especially on film and television, because those are genres I still have massive imposter syndrome in, even though I've done quite a lot of them. I still turn up on set going, I don't think I can do this really. Watching those actors, great. Yeah. If I haven't worked for a while, I actually love to watch something like that, and it reminds me of why I do what I do and why I love do what I do. Great. The next inspirational thing I find is art, because I did sculpture at university. I don't do this enough, but I love going to art galleries. I love just wandering around and just, you know, absorbing painting, sculpture, anything. It makes me calm and it makes me very, very happy. And finally, travel.
Yeah, and by the way, is the art an eclectic mix of all art, or are you honing in on a particular type of gallery?
No, I kind of love everything. I'm not a big one on. I think I'm more modernist. I love sort of anything from kind of mid 19th century onwards. I find religious painting quite creepy.
Yeah.
I do. I just kind of, I don't know why. It just makes me feel a bit like, we'd just been to Granada in Spain, and we walked around the huge Catholic cathedral, and it just freaks me out. It just, anything like that, just, I don't know why. Very strange. Probably need some help on that. But anyway, yeah, I'm probably more modernist. I love kind of mid 20th century, all of that. I love David Hockney. You know, yeah, I'm quite eclectic. So, and finally, travel, which I'd sort of slightly lost the habit of because of the pandemic, and I'd lost a bit of courage on that because I was clinically vulnerable because I have a weird blood disorder. But I did actually do the most amazing 4 months of travel with my ex-husband about 2 years before we got divorced. That was
memories.
I know. Well, they weirdly are. And I'm still really happy that we did that. We traveled to South America. We traveled to Australia. We went to Japan. It really was fantastic. And it still feeds me. So I think travel is hugely important and inspirational if one can do it. You don't have to go that far either, I don't think. You know,
it's
just
also a bit of wisdom that relationships aren't necessarily pointless just because they've ended. They would have had great memories and great
absolutely.
Not that you ever said that, but I'm just
No. A healer friend of mine said to me, the reason you were with your ex-husband was he's shown you how strong you actually are.
Wow.
Yeah. So
that's a lovely cherry on the cake.
Isn't it? It's pretty good. So yeah, those are my inspirationals. There we go. Great acting, art and travel. There we go. Gorgeous.
Awesome. And now, here come the squirrels. What are the monsters of distraction? Squirrels, what two things never fail to?
Dear. Well, look, now I'm going to reveal how deeply shallow and superficial I am. The first one is Ryan Gosling. There we go.
From an eye candy point of view, everything about the man, Ryan Gosling.
Come on now. And, you know, my partner, God love him, he respects and is very patient about my love of Ryan Gosling, to the point that when Blade Runner 2029 came out, I mean, he's a massive sci-fi fan, so this was for him as much as me. He booked us to see it at the IMAX in Waterloo.
Big up close. Love that.
What a happy girl I was. I mean, yes, great cinematography. But yeah, that was wonderful. And the other thing is, and I know we're coming on to cake, but the other thing is red velvet cake. If that kind of wafted past me, I'm gone.
Off.
Although I am recently now under what I call the Think Clint, which I've made up for myself because my partner said to me recently, Clint Eastwood says the reason he's lived so long is he's never eaten dessert.
That's great advice. I love that.
And I swear I now do it. I'm now like, okay, we're at a restaurant and we get to the dessert menu. I always look at it because I have this kind of Calvinist sort of self-flagellation thing about me. I always go, and then I go, no, because Clint
wouldn't. What would Clint do? What would Clint do?
Clint wouldn't have that chocolate brownie. He just wouldn't do it. So yeah. So, but if it was my birthday, it would always be, if it's my birthday, red velvet cake. Yeah. So those are my two distractions. They're very shallow. I'm terribly sorry. There's nothing.
And have we found ourselves sort of creepily up close to Ryan Gosling in our life yet? Or
sadly not. No, sadly not.
Because on your Twitter feed, I noticed you'd found yourself at the premiere of Mission Impossible.
Well, not the premiere.
Oh.
Let me say, I met TC. I actually met him. I've loved that man since I was 15. Not in a Ryan Gosling way, but I just love him. There's something about him. I love his acting. Yes, I know I'm not going to talk about all the other stuff in his life. That's not important to me. I just love his acting. I love the films he's made. I love Mission Impossible. I'm an action film junkie. They're great. I love the fact he does his own stunts. And this one, number 7, it's the best yet. Everyone go and see it. Even if you don't like Mission Impossible, go and see this film. It's astounding. And he is 5'7.5", maybe even 5'8", everyone. Come on. I know this. I'm 5'7", and he's a delightful person. So yeah, it was one of the greatest evenings of my life.
And does he say hi, Lucy, when he sees you now? Because I know Simon Pegg.
I very much doubt. No, I very much doubt he'd remember me from anyone, because he must meet thousands of people every day. But he did that thing that certain brilliant people do, which is they make you feel like you're the only person in the room when they're talking to you.
So that was your two squirrels of distraction. What's a quirky or unusual fact about you, Lucy Briers, we couldn't possibly know till you tell us?
I'm not fully qualified, but I have trained as a hands-on healer.
Lovely. Is that Reiki type thing?
No, it's actually spiritual healing, but we don't call it that because people get freaked out by it. So when I was much, much younger, when I was in my 20s, I was extremely ill, and I went to a healer, and he sort of he sort of changed my life. So ever since then, I've been very interested in that aspect of health and approach. And so, and I was about to take my full qualification and my father died, and I've never got back on track with it. I do occasionally, a friend will occasionally say to me, can you do a few sessions? And I do it for free because obviously I'm going to charge for something I'm not, but that is a quirky fact.
Lovely. And you're attesting about it beautifully. It's not jiggery quackery. It's actually something that you have experienced directly working.
Completely. Very briefly, I was very ill in my 20s, and I had to have a very large operation, which would have then meant I would have had to have had reconstructive plastic surgery. I went to this healer for 6 weeks, once or twice a week. I then went and had the operation. I came out of the operation, and then my surgeon said to me, you don't need to have reconstructive plastic surgery because the tumor's reduced by 50%. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm proof. And also anyone can learn how to be a hands-on healer. It is not some thing. It's we're all capable of it. And that's why I love the National Healing Trust. And that's who I trained with, because they're not about it being something special or a special gift or anything like that. We all have the potential within us, which is great.
Lovely.
Yeah.
So now we've shaken your tree, huzzah. We're now going to stay in the clearing, move away from the tree. Next, we're talking about alchemy and gold, please. So when you're at purpose and in flow, what are you absolutely happiest doing, Lucy?
Being on stage.
And that's when you feel the presence of your dad to this day.
Yeah, not all the time, but that's when I have my moments of greatest contentment. It's that wonderful thing when you're in the middle of a run of a play, usually a long run, and everything about that play, everything about each performance is almost automatic. You come off stage and you know exactly what you're doing, and I love that feeling. I love that feeling of when, because it's what I was sort of here. It's what I was here to do. I was here to be an actor, and I'm very, very lucky that I've always had a vocation. I think that's a very fortunate thing to have. So that's when I'm most in flow. Yeah.
So your true flow state when on stage. Lovely. And now I'm going to award you with a cake, please. Hurrah. Woo! So you get to put a cherry on your velvet cake, which is stuff like, what's a favourite inspirational quote that's always given you succor and pulled you towards your future?
I forgot about that one.
Make one up.
I suppose it would be a bit of Shakespeare here. It would be when Polonius says, and I'm going to paraphrase, be true to thine own self, be true. There we go. It's always a good touchstone, isn't it? Yeah, there we go.
Certainly is. What notes, help or advice might you proffer to a younger version of yourself, Lucy?
Pick the nice guy, Lucy. Pick the nice guy. Yeah. I ditched a couple of nice guys before I got married. Pick the nice guy. I fortunately am now with a nice guy. Yeah, I learned.
He's not Ryan Gosling, but you love him anyway. That's lovely.
He's beautiful. He's beautiful.
Of course he is. And now, we're cranking up to a bit of Shakespeare. And by the way, this is a very authentic prop because this is one I actually had at the Bristol Old Vic Theatre School.
Oh my God!
But just before we get there, this is pass the golden baton, please. Who in your network would you most like to pass the golden baton on to?
I don't think I can say yet because he hasn't come back to me.
We'll leave it enigmatic then. Okay, good.
Yes. But he's an actor and a writer. I hope he says yes.
Lovely. And he could be quite juicy and exciting. Thank you very much.
He will be very juicy and exciting. Yes. Yeah.
So your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to influence that particular bit of...
Yeah, I'm doing my very best, I can tell you.
And so your vision has snagged slightly there, but you're still there. Now, Inspired by Shakespeare and all the world's a stage and all the bit of women plays, when all is said and done, Lucy, how would you most like to be remembered?
As somebody who spent their time trying to investigate the human condition and understand life and improve myself, I haven't always been, when you're young, you're quite, well, I was not always kind to people, bit kind of, especially guys. So I would like to be remembered as somebody who worked on myself and therefore improved my relationships with people.
And by the way, when you listen back to this, you will see that you've given that gift to yourself. You have indeed worked on yourself to have, you're still here and you're the right way up, which is fantastic.
Thank you. Yeah, gosh, it takes effort, doesn't it, by this time in one's life?
Yes. Age equals wisdom.
It does. Yeah, it does
Wonderful.
indeed.
So where can we find out more about you on the old Hinterweb if we want to find out more stuff about Lucy Briers?
No, I don't know really. I don't have a website. You can go on to my agent's website. No, I'm terribly old fashioned like that. I'm a little bit enigmatic. I am on Twitter, but I try not to sort of reveal very much about myself because I sort of think that's the duty of an actor. Because if I'm on stage and somebody's gone, oh, I know all about her house and her this and her that and the other, then what am I doing? I quite like to be slightly unknown.
I like that. I like the cut of your jib, madam, in that regard.
Thank you.
So as this has been your moment in the sunshine in the Good Listening to show of stories of distinction and genius, is there anything else you'd like to say, Lucy Briers?
No, but I've really enjoyed the hour in New York. It's been lovely.
Wonderful. So, ladies and gentlemen, you've been listening to the adorable Lucy Briers. I've been Chris Grimes. Tune in next week for more stories from the clearing, and good night. You've been listening to the Good Listening To show here on UK Health Radio with me, Chris Grimes. Oh, it's my son.
If you've enjoyed the show, then please do tune in next week to listen to more stories from the clearing.
If you'd like to connect with me on LinkedIn, then please do so. There's also a dedicated Facebook group for the show too. You can contact me about the programme, or if you'd be interested in experiencing some personal impact coaching with me, care of my Level Up Your Impact programme, that's chris@secondcurve.uk. On Twitter and Instagram, it's
@thatChrisGrimes.
So until next time, from me, Chris Grimes, from UK Health Radio, and from Stan,
to your good health.
And goodbye. So, Lucy, could I get your immediate feedback on what that was like to be curated through this journey in this structure?
Yeah, it was really lovely. I really liked having a structure because for me, I can wibble on a bit. So it was really good to kind of know that the bell would be rung and I'd got my little prepped notes and things like that. No, it was great. It was really good. I really enjoyed it. And I really enjoyed prepping for it actually and thinking about it, especially the things that have shaped me. Yeah.
Yes,
really.
Lovely. And thank you so much for all of that due diligence in working very hard to come up with some really spangly, fantastic answers. Really lovely conversation.
It's a pleasure.
And thank you so much for knowing that I'm trying to grow it. So whoever you can pass on the golden baton to would be really appreciated. Thank you very much.
Yeah,